Hi, welcome back. Still on filler. Just going to be filling away for a good part of this week. Hoping to maybe get in primer, the first coat of primer at least, by the end of the week coming, hopefully. Um, we are in lockdown for another 2 weeks now, so I want to get back into getting the engine and stuff out and get the few last bits of welding done. Because the aim is to be ready for paint by the time this lockdown is lifting. Uh, we were saying we should try and get it painted while before then, but the place we need to actually get the paint is closed until then. So, yeah, so that's the target anyway. May as well have some deadline, and we'll just see how we go. But just keep driving on anyway, and we'll get there eventually. So those sections now on both sides are pretty good. Not absolutely perfect. It's a concave curve there, so it's quite hard to get it perfectly even. But it's close now for sure. Sorry, I don't know why this isn't focusing. These sections, I'm just fairing it completely across. These panels are a little bit bulbous. I think they're not as flat as they would originally have been. So the only way to really sort that is to fair it right out close to the center. I'm not looking to get it absolutely perfect, but if I just join them and fill the seams, both panels would curve in quite close together. So I'm just trying to improve on that a little bit. All the other bits and pieces actually are coming together. I'm just a lot of that stuff is squared out and it's starting to take shape a little bit. Same at the back. Just been trying to get those kind of smooth. Still building up on this slightly. I just build it up, knock it back. Bottom corners are nearly good. I still, unfortunately, have that repair to do behind the hitch. That'll be a step backwards, but anyway. That's all pretty nice now. Just got some to do around, a little bit more around there. And fairly happy with that now. And there's not a whole pile on this side actually, just those lower corners, just and that bit. But it's quite easy to get a nice flat surface on that. Didn't do anything there with the arch yet. That's really only just smoothing it out, and didn't do anything around the front just yet. But I'll finish the sides and then that'll be a quick enough job. Roof is stuck down now. Gutters, still want to do a little bit of I want to put a bit of filler along the gutters actually, just to fair them out nicely. And I can't put the inner sealant in, I don't think, until the top trim goes on it. Those trims, because there's not much room down inside those gutters. If I put the sealant in, I probably won't get these on. And I also, if I want to reuse these, they're still in good condition, but I'll have to warm them up a little bit to soften them a little bit so they don't just crack going on. They didn't break coming off, but still have to be fairly careful with them if I do want to reuse them. So that's it. I'll carry on another bit. Now, some of the very rough, awkward spaces, I can knock off the real rough edges of the filler with that. The disc's gone off a little bit. Handy just to really just knock off bad pieces that you don't want on there. The orbital sanders are a handy tool, quite delicate and give quite a half-decent finish. But really, again, that's all just for the initial sanding. Once I'm onto the second thing of filler, really, it's only, you're kind of down to these sized ridges then, instead of like, say for instance, when you've got a little piece like that, you can knock that off. You could knock it off with the electric one, or in around the back there was a good example where lots of curves and shapes, and it's hard, you get a lot of edges on your filler, so I use the electric one to take off the filler, take off the edges. But once it's down like that, then I am hand sanding all the way. So generally always with a block. So about a foot long. bit narrow. You could go a bit wider, but just because of what I'm doing, it's just a nice straight, solid piece of plywood. So you get a nice flat, straight finish. If you use hand sand, if you start hand sanding it all without a block, you'll end up with dips and hollows and whatnot. A smaller block there for doing shorter pieces. Just a roll of like, what's this stuff? 120. So that's pretty coarse. Initially, for some of the first fills, I was using this, and this is what that is a sanding belt, a torn sanding belt off of a big Milwaukee sander. That's 60 grit, but it's well used. I mean, the belt was knackered, but it's very, very tough. So, you know, you could do one piece like that and you'd do the coarse stuff on the whole van nearly. But I've moved on now because this leaves a lot of deep scratches that then in turn almost need filling themselves. Just look for some there now, like that there. Let's see if we can see that. Like that's probably from the 60 grit. So that'll be fared out some more if I give that a rub of 120 now, but it's probably going to need another, just a scraping of filler to fill those. And then I'll do it so it's something a bit finer. And once the primer goes on, it'll get flatted again anyway. And if I can still see it, I'll just have to continue to flat it until I can't see those anymore. But yeah, like that. It actually eats away, you know, you go through it pretty quick with the block and like that. If you do start seeing metal like that, I mean, that's clearly a high spot then. I mean, that's, yeah, it's actually pretty good, but you know, in a good shine, that'll be noticeable. So if they start showing through, it has to be sorted. Again, this all depends on the level you want. Really, I like getting a better finish than I like to own afterwards, because I rather look stuff that I can, you know, don't have to be so precious about. But when I'm doing things, I like them to be, I like quite a high finish on stuff. Again, I won't get it perfect, but I like it to do as good as I can possibly get it anyway. Right, so I said I'd make a bit of video before I got started. Today might actually be the last day of filler. I'm hoping to be kind of getting ready and cleaning up here and stuff to get on with primer by this evening. I won't be priming today, but yeah, for a little while the filler work seemed like it might be endless, and then suddenly I started running out of places to work on. So yeah, quite pleased with that. For the most part, the van seems pretty straight. I'll show you what I'm doing with the quarter panels. I've done quite a bit of work there, but it wasn't 100% necessary, but I want to improve on it a little bit. So only a little bit to do on the other side now, and then yeah, major cleanup operation in here. So I've spent quite a lot of time on this section here, actually coming off of both sides of the panels. What happened is these panels all kind of bulge and turn in where they meet at the seam, and although the seam was nice and flush, you still have quite a bow in the panel. It's just the way they are. I mean, even this panel does bow out, but now I've got it nice and square going back into that panel, where it did mean filling over the seam, and then I recut the seam. I'm going to go through that now with a skinny disc as well, and then I'll put the primer on, and after that I will seam seal it after the first coat of primer to fill out the seam quite a bit. Same here on this section. I was able to fill over the whole lot and then just sand it back until I had a completely, you know, so every panel is nice and flush and running onto it. Back now is all done. Here is the same. That seems full at the moment, but I could sand that out, but as you can see, it's starting to hit here. So this panel's rounding to about there and then tucks in. So I'm going to have to fill that out more to try and get a really straight panel. And down here is not too bad. It does go out to that a little there, but I'm quite happy with the bottom part. And the same, the back of this corner, this arch here was quite rough really, the replacement panel. So I filled that over, but again, I'll be taking that a lot of that off again now. Where else? That's not bad down there. Front corners filled out. That's got rough filler on it at the moment. A little patch there. This is pretty good. Up around the windscreen needs a little bit more. Good there, but just need to do a little swipe through there and sand this out. This side's better, just the rebate to do. And I've just done a little edge down along these seams to square the seams up a bit. Again, I'll seam seal those once I have primer on it. Down the front there, I'm not going to be overly fussy. I'm going to put a bit of filler over it, sand it back as well as I can, and leave it be. The bumper comes up to about here on this anyway, I think, so it's not too fussy about that. Otherwise, this side is pretty damn good now. And I've got to pay attention to up here, anywhere where I've touched with the grinder. Actually, there's a bit of blistering there I'm going to have to grind out. Yeah, like these little things, these need taking care of, and I'm going to have to fill and try and sand out the gutters nice and straight. So that's all on the agenda for today. Right, sorry about the clicking in the background, by the way. There's animals back in the fields around here, so the fencer's back on. Been going hell for leather at this all day. Really getting down to the nitty gritty stuff now. Got to move it forward in the morning so I can open the doors to do some work around the front wheel arches. But other than that, sand the gutters, another one more go at them, and everything else is getting in pretty good shape now. So as you can see, I'm trapped between the poles there. Can't open the doors, and I want to do the underside of the sill inside the door shut, and the wheel arch, mainly the one on the other side, needs a little work. So yeah, I need to be able to open the doors. The gutters are nearly there now. They're getting fairly nice and smooth. I've just put a few bits in here and there, trying to get them nice and fair. Quarter panels are all good. Little bit on the edges of the seams, I've just sorted that out as well. Edges of the seams, I've just been filling them out a little bit just to square them up a little more, but pretty happy with all that. Same on this side, have that pretty much where I want it now. Again, I built up the edge of that seam there a little bit, and yeah, gutter on this side is quite good now as well. Along the front needs a little more work. Done around the windscreen, that's pretty much sorted, both sides, but down the front there, just put a kind of a skim filler over that. I'll do a little more on that before it's finished. And I went along all this edge here with a little bit as well. Not that there was any welding or any holes really, just to, it's kind of pitted and stuff, so just cleaned it up and give it a nice smooth coat of filler. There's good as well. So yeah, pulled the other side window out too. There was a little bit of blistering there, not bad at all actually inside those. I hate putting them back in, but you know, no point in having rust dribbling out from under them when they're done. That cardboard's quite handy actually. From the box the panels came in, and the inner rubber holds it out quite nicely against that, so it saves a lot of masking up and things having that in there. Yeah, 24 hours later, I'm exactly where I thought I was about 24 hours ago. I did manage today to pick up some U-POL 2K filler primer. New pre-wipe and masking tape, etc. The weather's pretty miserable, but seems to be quite dry in here still. So tomorrow, I'm actually hoping to get a bit of primer put on this tomorrow. I know I said that yesterday, but ended up doing quite a bit of work here around the wheel arches, etc. Just I had completely forgotten about it really, inside the door shut, and finishing off the underside of the gutters, a few little bits like that, and a few little bits and pieces here and there as well that I just noticed as I proceeded with it. But yeah, we'll see how we get on tomorrow. Also managed to actually sweep up, clean up a little bit in here. So. Now, I came out yesterday morning and got the last few bits and pieces of filler that I wanted to get done, sorted out. Cleaned the high top there a little bit so there wouldn't be stuff blowing down off of it, and yeah, just done a few bits and pieces. But then it got torrentially wet yesterday evening, so I left it at that. And last night was really misty and foggy and horrible, and this morning's not much better. So kind of, everything's damp with condensation and everything, so I can't do anything with it. So really I'm just going to leave it alone for the rest of today, and tomorrow looks really good, so hopefully tomorrow things will dry up, and yeah, we might get some primer on this thing. I did go underneath yesterday and took down the spare wheel and stuff and got to have a look up behind that. Actually quite happy with all that. The worst job presumably now, the worst job I still need to do is going to be on the chassis legs inside there. This side more so than the other side. I'm going to have to get in there somehow, so probably engine and transaxle might have to come out. It's only a bit of patchwork, but it's just access is the biggest problem with it. So yeah, going to leave it for today. Next thing is going to leave it for today, and then it'll be on to spraying. All masked up. Just got to cover over the wheels, give the whole thing a rub of pre-wipe, and then it's time for primer. A few hours later now, just let the shed air out a little bit. Absolutely stinks in here. I had to change my mask earlier and go back to an old mask because the fumes were, that new one wasn't taking the fumes out of it. So gave it about 2-3 coats of primer, mostly spot primer. I did prime a lot of it, but not all of it. Looks pretty good really. Quite happy. Nearly a litre of primer on there. So I'll give you a walk around it there and show you. gutters came out quite nicely. I put that on quite a heavy, that was quite a thick coat of primer, or I left it quite thick. My gun doesn't really have big enough jets for that, so I couldn't get a very wide spray pattern on it. But I don't mind with this because I just wanted to pile some primer onto it. So it kind of highlights what needs doing with these seams. I mean, I'm going to seam seal these anyway, but you know, a lot of this stuff is really hard to see when you're looking at it. It's like looking at a Where's Wally. When you take away the clutter, it makes the defects a lot easier to see. So that's a nice step forward anyway. Yeah, finally starting to look like something half decent. So, I'm going to leave this video at that. I want to say welcome to all the new subscribers. I've got a good few on there this week. Yeah, I love getting the primer on. It's like getting to finally scratch everything off a to-do list, and it makes things look a lot simpler. Unfortunately, we do have to take a few steps backwards now. There'll be some welding in the engine compartment and stuff like that, and I still have some welds to do on the inside that are going to burn through the primer on the outside. I knew it was going to be the case, but yeah, it'd be easy. I'll just do some spot priming after that to touch those areas up. I'll also take off the doors and maybe the boot lid, definitely the doors and the sliding door for when I'm actually painting it. Very small repair to do to the bottom of the sliding door. The front doors are fine. I just let you in on a little bit is that it is going two-tone, so yeah, doing two-tone in the door shuts and all that stuff, it'll be far easier to take the doors off and finish them separately. So yeah, leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the like button, please. So thank you very much. Cheers, and see you next time.